what 2022 has in store right now. Hey, I'm good. How has my life changed in COVID? Well, it's changed quite a bit in a number of ways. I mean, things have been pretty shut down in the music world for a lot of us all over the world. Right now, in particular, here on Prince Edward Island in Canada, things are shut down more than they have been probably since the beginning of this thing. It's been pretty bad as of late, and we've seen our first death in the community, which is really it's really tragic. It's been an interesting journey, anyone that's seen a little bit on my social media. So, yeah, things have changed quite a bit. Trying to think back now, I know we had a lot of things, really the uncertainty, I think, I mean, even now, a lot of people are saying that we're getting towards the end of this thing, and I truly hope that we are, but we just don't know. I mean, the last couple of years have told us that we're not really sure where the end is. We recorded a new record through the pandemic and, in a different province than I live in. There were certainly challenges there. I mean, we had started the new album, well, in March of 2020. So the month that shit hit the fan. And we were working on it and kind of, working and writing and the new songs and watching the news at the same time. And it doesn't look good. And then as like the week went on and the next week we're like, this is getting serious. So I was like, I gotta go home. It turned from like, oh wow, this doesn't look good, and kind of just like, having coffee and watching these headlines. I mean, we were fairly isolated at the time out in the country recording a record, but it went pretty quickly from that to like, holy shit. I don't think any of us have seen anything like this in our lifetime, any from our generation. It's a pretty new experience. We had just done a big hometown live show, a great big theater show, sold out, big 11-piece band. And we recorded a bunch of it with a big video crew. And we had finished that. It was on February 29th, 2020. And 3 days later, hopped in my car with a handful of guitars and a whole bunch of songs, and left to my producer's place in Nova Scotia, in Canada. So, to be honest, at the time, I wasn't actually even sure what songs we were going to record. We had, I don't know, 50 or 60 songs that were kind of written or sketched out. And from there, we were just diving in and ripping them apart and putting them back together. And we got through, before the pandemic shut down, we got through 2 songs, sketched out enough and the vocals done, so that when I had to come back home to Prince Edward Island, we could keep working on at least those 2 for the next little bit while things were fairly shut down. So we kind of had to wait to get back in the swing of things till the summer when things opened up again. And then we got together and we started into it again, and things came together. For me, that experience or that process is a little bit different than I'm used to. The last few albums that I've done, it was very much like I work with, whether it's just myself or a member of my band or whoever I'm working with, we really nail down every little piece, every little note, every aspect of the album before we enter the studio. This process, we went the other route, and we went into the studio not even knowing what songs we were doing. I loved it, to be honest. I thought it was fantastic. It was a real treat to go in and just really embrace that kind of creative energy in the studio, and who knows where it was going to go. I mean, some of the songs, like I say, were fairly craft and complete. Yeah, it was an interesting process to put this record together. We did some stuff right before the pandemic kind of hit, and we were able to get enough done so that we could do things like I could do some stuff from here in PEI, and the producer was able to do some stuff from where he was at, and we had enough to work with to get through 2 songs. For the rest of it, we waited until things were safer and we were able to get together in person. And I traveled back to Nova Scotia. We brought in all of the session players that played on the record, and we were able to do it in person. It's a self-titled album. I think really the first record that I've done that I didn't use any of my live band. I didn't use any of my usual collaborators that I would work with. It was all kind of just going in a bit of a new direction in terms of how we approached it. The songwriting, the song selection, and the production. It was a new a new way of approaching making a record for me. I guess it just felt like a departure in that way, but it really just felt like very much me, at least in the driver's seat, if that makes sense. It's not necessarily a personal album from a writing perspective. Some of it is, but not necessarily. I mean, almost every song has a co-writer on it. There's certainly some personal stuff in there, but I think more than anything, with it being the self-titled aspect, more of just, I think it's just felt like more of a departure from the way I've made music in the past. We've had some really great reviews come in of the songs, and since we've started presenting them live with the band, it's been very well received. So overall, like, I'm just really, really proud of this album as a piece of work and of the songs and the production that we put into it. It's been well received so far, and get some more out of it. And we were writing some of these songs at kind of like peak Trump era United States. Like, we're waking up in the morning, sitting down and having our coffee and throwing on some of the left wing and some of the right wing news programs on television, and watching these headlines unfold. And to say that that wasn't influential on some of the songs would be false. We tackled some of those issues, and that definitely played into it in terms of inspiration. There's some other stuff on the record that's just a little bit more straight ahead love songs and rock songs. I love, the first single we put out, Ain't Going Out Like That. I'm just like so thrilled with how it turned out. It's just a sweet rock and roll song with some horns and a ripping sax solo, and it is a blast to play live too. So that one is a ton of fun. I think, and this might sound a little bit funny, like kind of from a writing perspective and a production perspective, one of my favorites on the record, or maybe my favorite, is a song called Best I've Ever Had, which is, it's kind of a funny one. I co-wrote that song with my producer, and that's a great example of a song that's written from I guess not personal experience necessarily, and certainly not current experience. It's a song about hooking up with somebody. It's a terrible idea, and it's just going to be a one night stand that kind of means nothing, and you're going to get hurt over it, but you do it anyways. It's kind of a funny one for two happily married guys to write. I really love how it turned out, and it's a really fantastic one. And probably finally, the one that I really like for more like sit down theater shows is a song. It's just a tender one that we have on the very end of the record called Where Did the Night Go. I just think it's just a beautiful little tune, and yeah, a really nice one to play, solo. Most of the album, it's rock and roll. That's the best I've got for it. I mean, some of it is definitely, it's more folky. It's definitely leans on into the folk world, especially the last song, as I mentioned, with like Where Did the Night Go. But overall, I think you're going to class it. It's a rock and roll album. I mean, we did what we could. We played around the Atlantic Canadian region as much as possible. We managed to have some really great festival performances. And, like I say, we had, tour dates and strings of dates axed and canceled all over the place, or indefinitely postponed, or what have you. I did one live stream concert. I had kind of fun with it. I found it weird. I mean, you are playing by yourself. I played it with my wife Nikki, and we played and did it together, and she's a saxophone player in my band as well, a fantastic musician in her own right. But we had fun with it, and I think we had a few glasses of wine and hung out and played some tunes. It felt so strange for me to do. We did this record, obviously not planning on a pandemic release. And I think in talking with some of my colleagues, artists around the world, it's really tough. I mean, it costs thousands and thousands of dollars to make a record and to promote it and put all of that into it, and to not be able to tour and support it, where that's a big chunk of making up that investment. That's a pretty big blow to then, after the last couple of years that we've had, to kind of look at this record and be like, okay, well, it's pretty well done. It's time to do it again. I mean, that's a tough pill to swallow. I'm supposed to be in London right now, but I'm here in Canada. I don't know what 2022 has in store right now. We were supposed to be in Europe in 2020 in the fall. We're looking at Europe this coming fall. I mean, hopefully things are are good by then, and that's all possible. So like that's the closest thing to like something set in stone is that the European stretch in the fall. We do have a number of summer festivals that will bring, like Canadian festivals that we're really excited for. Aside from that, we're hoping to get back on the road and play and promote. And through this past number of months, we've been doing a lot of writing and co-writing with people virtually, and we're getting another group of songs together and plan on doing another record.